We're celebrating Better Days, the story of UK Rave. People have been going crazy in the comments for your set. So shout out to SB, Jen Louie, Toxie Jean, Return of Jaded, Susie I Am. I mean, how did it feel for you playing on such a big system for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. Used to play in clubs. I always used to like to be really close to people, you know, anyone who was right at the front I would talk to, you know, and I kind of buzz off what they were dancing to. If I thought they might like the next one, I'd tell them about it. And so my whole vibe is like, I'm with the people that are on the dance floor, and this was like the opposite of that. So it was like very much in my own head, like, what do I want to play that I will dance really hard to?
And that's what a lot of people sort of picked up. They were like, oh, you know, is it weird? There's two cameramen, you know. Why is the cameraman not dancing, you know? But is there something in your head, like, you know, when you first start, you know, your set, and then is there like a self-conscious thing, and then you kind of have to go inward? I know when I'm, you know, doing similar things, like I have to go inward and be like, no, you do this for fun too.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's always what am I going to play first? What's the first track going to be? And it's always nerves. They build up through the day, and then you play the first one, and then you're in. And it's kind of like, now I'm going to have a really good time. And, you know, I say it every time, but have all these nerves before I play. But then afterwards, it's like, what was I thinking? Like, why was I? But there's a reason. There is like an element of pressure. It's like, I want people to have a nice time. And when you're in control of that, it's like, whoosh, loads of pressure.
And they did. They had an amazing time. They were saying, you know, like they're going to get Uber here. You know, who needs to leave? Yeah, who needs to leave the house to have fun? Talk to me about some of the music that you played in your set, because it really did reflect the tone of the documentary, which is about the 90s rave scene.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff was from mixtapes, and so what's really difficult with playing stuff that's from a mixtape is trying to get a balance on recordings. You know, when I was talking before, it's like the whole rave scene was maverick. It was like people, you know, these people weren't professionals, but people would, you know, making music from cutting stuff up, and there was never any sort of real balance. And now we live in this digital age, and it's like trying to, you know, lift all these different tracks and keep that energy that you get from these, you know, recordings in sort of in the same place each time. It's quite difficult, but I really like the challenge. I like that challenge.
There was one record that I came across. It might have been Pierre's Fantasy, and it starts off panned to the right. So you're like, hold on a minute. It starts off in the right ear, then it goes to the left ear, and then halfway through it's suddenly in both ears. And I'm like, can someone change this for me? My partner was like, don't touch the record. That's how they made it.
Yeah. It's that there's so much like dynamics, and another thing that is really difficult is time. It's like everything shifts, you know, like a tape recording shifts, and so it feels like it's more alive when you're playing it, because you really have to listen, but also it's just so much fun. It's like I want to jump around more, but I'll just knock stuff over and, you know, make a mess. So
we've got a question in. So Yasu said, question for Afrodeutsche: what do you miss most about raving?
People. I miss the faces. I miss people's reactions to music. You know, it's these faces that are at the front. You know, I was talking about talking to these people. I miss that. It's like it's like when you get a group of people who haven't gone to the bar, they haven't left, they've stayed for the whole entire set. It's like you're bringing them so much joy. Like, and you can also, it's almost like you work from them. And I think this is what's been challenging here, is that I've really had to go really internal. And so I didn't realize how much I missed it, you know, just having those faces, you know.
Yeah, we will have those faces again, most definitely. In the meantime, we've got the internet. Gaming of the Far Beat said, most exciting emerging artists on your radar right now. So obviously today was a lot about throwing back, but when you're looking forward, who's exciting you?
Yeah, well, with should I hold that? Cool. Yeah, ANZ. ANZ. There's something about how she puts things together, and when it comes to sort of rave and that genre, she just has this ear. It's like everything she creates, and I want to play, or I want to dance to, or I want to do both. So hands down, ANZ.
I'm glad you said and. Do you think that could be a time, I mean, you're both in Manchester, could you ever have a collaboration or a studio session with ANZ?
It's definitely something that we've talked about with friends, so it's kind of like you buzz off each other's work. But who knows? It's, you know, everyone's got lots of stuff going on, and I wouldn't want to commit to that right now, but yeah, I'd love to. And
Yeah, I'm going to lock you guys in the studio together. Yeah, and it's happening, all right? I've said it. During the lockdown, you know, obviously people had to pivot and they had to change ways of working and different ways of working. Like you said, you feed off of people. You're like, you could test drive records out. You get someone's reaction. So during this period of time, has the type of music you've been making changed?
absolutely, I was really actually surprised at the shift in my own music. I'd always wanted to use my voice, but never been brave enough or felt like I had the language or whatever I'd had to say wasn't valid. You know, had all these fears, and it wasn't until I was sort of locked away that I sort of opened up my lungs and started singing and using my voice. And turns out it's choral. Who knew? So it's lots of layers and lots of space. I'm playing with lots of different spaces and instruments and live stuff like strings.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I mean, obviously I won't say where you were today, but, you know, being in different spaces and knowing that you come from a classical background, having that pause on club culture, did it allow you to explore those other elements of yourself?
Yeah, totally. It was really unexpected. I didn't realize how much I needed to have my ears in that world. I've always jumped between the two. It's like one moment I'm very much analog and anything digital sort of makes my teeth itch. And then to the other point where I'm completely digital and everything digital is, you know, sonically makes sense. So the sort of isolation sent me back into the acoustic and playing with the acoustic and really understanding how orchestras work and placement of orchestras. And there's a standard way of placing an orchestra and, you know, miking an orchestra. So lots of research has gone on during this time. So, yeah.
And then do you think that the two worlds could combine? So now when you get back into the club, can we bring the orchestra to the club?
Working on it.
Okay. So, and what else have you been working on? I mean, what music can we expect next? What should people go and check out from some of your previous projects?
Yeah, so just before we had the first lockdown, I just premiered my live show, Amp de Ziele, at Berghain at CTM Festival, and opened up the festival at the main floor of Berghain, and it's an audiovisual live show, analog live show, and we were hoping to take that to London, actually, and that didn't happen, but I'm working with an amazing artist to sort of finish that work. So there's a huge body of work that still hasn't been presented in this way, and it's film, and it's lights, and it's drama, and it's a story. I basically wrote my own requiem. Wow. So yeah.
I mean, what sort of inspiration, or what sort of what is the process to make your own requiem? How does one even start?
Yeah, it came down to music. To me is a way of translating what's going on for me personally, and it was a case of just being really brave about how I was feeling and wanting to translate that and use music as the tool. And it was basically the whole live show was set up so that it was the story of my life, but it was me understanding the story of my life, you know, being the only black kid in my school, growing up in the West Country in the 80s, and just, you know, all the violence and all the beautiful things that happened, and the fact that music was the thing that kept me going. And it was complex. It was really hard. It was amazing. But what I ended up doing at the Berghain was I turned it into a church. So I had my piano and all my synths and everything all set up, but I decided to start the set with an improvised vocal piece. Wow. Because I really wanted to feel the room, you know, this place where everyone comes to worship. You know, they go to the Berghain, it's like this temple of music. And so I wanted to change the whole atmosphere in there, and I did that with music and joss sticks of cocoa and different items that were traded through the slave trade. So it was like a whole way of translating my inheritance and my life and existence, and then we had a really good dance at the end because it got really techno.
I mean, that just sounds like something that would, blow my mind. I mean, I really hope this is a show that we do get to see, and I know you're working sort of on a different version, but even the intersectionality of us being here at this amazing venue, you playing a, you know, tearing set behind us, in the venue behind us, there's literally a church singing, you know, layered choral vocals. There is something at that cross section. I've always sort of seen you as a pioneer and been inspired by you. You know, you've kind of been like, wow. I was like, oh, you know, I remember seeing articles about you and being like, okay, cool. That means it's possible. That means I can do that. Okay. And you've been on such an incredible journey. So what sort of like next on your bucket list of things you want to achieve and tick off?
Yeah, it's very much sound design. I've always been interested in sound and technology, and I'm starting to get opportunities working with people who are in sound design and different ways of creating spaces and using different elements of how you sort of receive a live show. So it's having lots of more dynamics in it, and I'm moving like closer to working with lots more acoustic instruments. So it's expanding. You know, it's like all these things that I've had in here for a really long time are sort of now having the opportunities to sort of spread out and come to fruition. So it's quite a heavy time for me at the moment, because it's almost like, as an artist, I'm in another development stage, which I didn't realize I would ever be in, but I am, and it's fun.
Yeah, scary and fun. I know that feeling, and it's needed to push you through to that next layer. But when you're in it, it can feel like I'm starting again. I'm right at the beginning. I'm amateur again.
Yeah, I mean, I love learning. It's like I don't know how to loop on CDJs. No joke. Yeah, and so it's great, because it's like I think everyone's styles and how they play are from what they've learned, and if you've learned in a certain particular way, then you play in that way. So I love learning. I love like finding new things out that I don't know anything about, and sort of using them in my world. So yeah.
What advice would you give to young, producers that are coming through now, that are seeing all the work that you've been doing as a DJ, as a performer, as an artist, as a composer? What advice would you give to them?
The first thing would be brave. You really have to be brave to do this. It's not easy, and so it's bravery, stepping out, taking that first step. And the second thing is not listening to that voice. That voice that goes, this sounds like something else. They're going to think that you copied this. Ignore that voice. I used to shout at that voice. I just looked kind of, out of it when I'm making music, because I would hear that voice so often. And you will keep hearing that voice, but I think it's really important to know that voice is not truth. It's not truth in what you're doing. You decide. What you do is good. It is valid. Whether you share it with anyone or not. So yeah, ignore that voice.
That's really, really, really good advice there. Because I think as well, if you keep on ignoring it and then you push through to that next layer, it will undoubtedly sound different. By the time you get to the end point, it will sound different. And let's talk about like this year. What's coming up? What festivals are you playing? And I've seen a big one for 2022.
Yeah, well, this is so bizarre, like booking festivals. So I think not in any particular order. There's Digital in Amsterdam, Junction 2. Great, nice one, Henrietta. That's Junction in London, and Primavera in Barcelona. So it's exciting.
When I saw you on is it your when I saw that you were playing Primavera, the festival in Barcelona, is kind of like it's a nice alarm. It's a good alarm. Yeah, we were just saying that in the green room, and it starts to get to, we're not used to being out so late. It's like, bear with us, it's way past these DJs' bedtimes right now. But Primavera is a big one, and that's, rolling over into next year. What does it feel to kind of be on a lineup like that, like next to such a variety of names, but also a festival that's equal in gender?
Yeah, it's actually astonishing for me, because I have this. Primavera has a place in my heart, as does Benny Kassim. I first started going to these festivals, really back in the day when they first sort of started, and it was like getting on a plane to go to a festival where it is hot, and then seeing these really dramatic architectural spaces, and then, with Primavera it had the big concert hall. And I remember, I think Donnie Darko had just come out, and what's his name? Nigel, I can't remember. But anyway, the guy who composed all the music for Donnie Darko, which I was obsessed with at the time, they were playing it live at this festival. And I was like, I can dance in the sun, and I can listen to Donnie Darko in this. And it was like, it was everything that I needed from a festival, sonically and space and people. And so I'm kind of shocked that I'm playing it. I never dreamt that when I was going that I would play it.
Well, we're going to have that experience, you know, for anyone lucky enough to be there. They'll be like, I'm listening to Afrodeutsche in the heat, in the sun. This is amazing. Incredible set. Looking forward to your live show when we finally get to see it. Looking forward to you hearing you use your voice. So right now we are celebrating Better Days, story of UK Rave. We've got an after party. It's going down right now. We've got the next DJ stepping in. We've got Dance System. He is behind the Amazon Originals track that you heard in the documentary featuring Rush Davies, called Better Days. He had a massive album out last year, Where's the Party At? Runs a great label called System Records, and you were going to love his set, so let's get into it.